Are you a thoughtful leader? Maybe you are. Maybe you think you are. Let's find out. I'm Mindy Gibbins-Klein. I'm author of The Thoughtful Leader and host of the Thoughtful Leader podcast. Thoughtful leadership is all about thought leadership that goes above and beyond. Thought leadership that is truly new and original, exciting, disruptive, maybe even groundbreaking. Because let's face it, we need to raise the bar. My guests and I are absolutely obsessed with finding truly original thought leadership, and I'm going to bring you so many exciting ideas and opportunities, things for you to think about, and chances for you to push your thinking that you'll be very glad you tuned in. So thanks so much for checking out Thoughtful Leadership and the Thoughtful Leader podcast. I look forward to connecting with you very, very soon. Welcome to the show. My guest today is the amazing thoughtful leader, Shane Moore. Shane, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. So the Thoughtful Leader Show is all about thoughtful leadership in lots of different fields. And this is the exciting thing, because I don't think we've ever had anybody on the show who does what you do. So why don't you explain a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Well, I'm Shane Moore, and I'm from Canada. And I started off being a massage therapist until I found a modality called myofascial release. And so I've decided to specialize in that because I've found that it really helps people heal and shift things in their body a lot faster, and we're getting a lot better results from it. And so I've gone on, and I've been doing this for over 10 years. So I've done a lot of continuing education with it. And so what I've really come to understand on my journey with this is that this work really helps to heal trauma. And that's really kind of what I do, is I help people heal their trauma when I'm treating them for their aches and pains and whatever's going on for them.
Wow. So I guess I have to ask, do people always realize there is trauma, or is it something that you uncover through the work? Do they know before?
They don't always know mentally. I mean, I think on some level we all know that there's something going on with us sometimes. And it's just that we have, as a society, become very disconnected from ourselves, from our physical bodies, because it's easy to just, well, maybe not easy, but it's possible to disconnect your feeling self from your brain, and it doesn't feel good. It doesn't, we generally end up ill or not, in pain when we do that. But it's really about reconnecting to our physical selves and just learning how to live really well in our bodies and feel really well in our bodies, because that is the intended state, right?
Yes, and you've written a book about this, which is how we met.
Yes.
The user's guide to the human body. Do we need a user's guide for the human body? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what the inspiration was, right? It's a reminder for people just to check back in with what's going on in their physical level, because, everyone's just so busy, and it's just go, go, go. And you're just doing 10 things in 5 minutes. And it's just like, you know what, let's just slow down and pay attention to what's going on in your body, because it's telling you what it needs. And when you give it what it needs, it works really well. And when you don't, it stops working really well. So, and nobody really wants that, right? We all want to be able to keep doing what we're doing and have a great life and feel good in our bodies most of the time. So I just want people to know that is possible. You just need to do a little bit of maintenance work.
Yeah, just like a car or something else, if you want it to work well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what are the benefits if somebody really likes the sound of what you're saying, and your clients obviously have done really well and made improvements? What kind of improvements can people make to their bodies?
Well, I mean, there's all kinds, there's no limit to the improvements you can make. I've treated people with, cancerous tumors that have shrunk under my hands. I've people who have had scoliosis their whole lives. Their spine has started to straighten with this work. I mean, pain goes away, movement improves, it's different for everybody, but it can be really profound, and it can be, more seemingly minor. And when it comes to the body, nothing is really minor, because if you leave it long enough, it becomes major. So, and I don't want to leave things long enough, but that's my personal choice. And we all have that right to exercise our personal choice when it comes to our body. But, why would you want to live in a body that just does not feel good if you don't have to? And it doesn't take a lot to actually shift that and make it better.
Yeah, so it does sound magical. And one of these days I'll get to experience it. And that's an interesting thing. So I'm talking to you during the pandemic of 2020 and 2021. So have you, I guess this is a silly question, but have you worked remotely with people? Is this work able to be done through Zoom or similar?
It actually can be done remotely. I have not really done that in a paid capacity yet, just because that kind of work is new to me, and I just want to get a better handle on it before I start doing that with people. I've practiced a couple of times with people that I know and, haven't, just friends or whatever, and who know the work. But it can be, is the short answer. But what I've really spent more time on is the online programs and the self-care programs that everybody can use, because after this, last year and a half or however long it's been so far that we've been on lockdown and in this kind of fear mindset and all that sort of thing, and all the stress that's happening. We really need to take time to care for ourselves and improve our immune systems. And that's another thing that this work can do is really, improve your immune system and your overall health. So it really is important for people to start doing even a little bit every day is going to make a difference. Yeah,
well, I think I'm in better health than ever during this time, because there hasn't really been the ability to do much else. So I've done more exercise, running, weightlifting, general fitness, conscious, healthy eating. So, I'm, making the best of a situation that I didn't want. As you know, I love my travel, and that was just taken away from me and many others. Yeah. But, some good things have come out of it. But I'm very interested to hear about the online and the self-care. Can you tell everybody a little bit more about that? What can people do for themselves?
Well, there's lots of techniques that people can do, and I created a program that encompasses some of the best, most effective different healing modalities under one sort of program. And so what I found is that when you combine those modalities as you're using them, they are just that much more effective. And so, it involves breath work practice and some different yoga postures and that sort of thing. But there's also some myofascial release self-treatment with, either your hands or a ball that I explain different techniques for that. So, it's a very comprehensive program with videos and PDFs and audio files. And that's available online through my website. If you can't afford to do that, then, even just taking some time to breathe every day, conscious breathing and just deep breathing, because most of us aren't even getting enough oxygen throughout our day, right? And it shifts your mind so quickly. And it's amazing. It always amazes me how quickly I shift when I start to do that, right? So, and just how much more calm I feel in any situation. So, if there's one thing people can do that's free, it's not hard just to start to breathe into your belly and get some more oxygen into your body. So that's what's involved in the self-care program.
I either read about it on your website or saw the course or read about it in the book somewhere, or I can't remember where it was. And, when I couldn't get to the massage therapist to, massage and be aware of, releasing tension in my own body, when we didn't feel safe going out or when we weren't allowed to go somewhere. Yeah. There's lots of things that can be done. The breathing thing is really funny. It's like, how could people forget to breathe, right? But it's about the deep breath. It's, exactly. Oxygen is a miracle.
Yeah, and we all do it. I'm guilty of it myself, just forgetting to breathe, and it's just about getting used to reminding yourself, right?
Well, tell everybody about something else. So I know that you have worked with elite athletes, and I think it would be great for everybody to understand why that is and how that came about. and what it means. I mean, if we can model somebody, it would be someone who's top of their game, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, the work is super important for elite athletes, mostly because they train a lot, right? And a lot of them, if they're sport specific and their movements tend to be the same all the time, then their body is developing these patterns. And it could be developing wear patterns as well and injuries. And I don't know any pro athletes that don't have pretty chronic injury of some sort, or just sporadic different injuries that they're working through. And if they want to feel good and even prolong their sport, but if they want to feel good and live really well after their sport, then they need to be doing this work now. It's like throughout their sport. I mean, start now. I mean, this stuff needs to be starting with kids, to be honest, especially if your kids are in sports. I mean, kids need the work as much as anybody, and they actually respond much better to it than adults because they're not always in their head. But yeah, the athletes, they need to be doing this on a regular basis, because I feel like if you actually are doing the recovery more, then you probably need to train less, and it will just balance out your schedule and balance out your body that much better.
Yeah. So, and if you can get into these good habits, I like what you said about the kids, because, children, if they can get into good habits early, it will serve them throughout their life.
Absolutely.
And I haven't met too many, but, I hear about obesity in kids and even little kids having heart attacks and things like that. Have you heard about all those stories?
The heart attacks is new, but the obesity is not. I mean, I'm from North America and I've seen it firsthand, right? Like, kids are very sedentary these days. A lot of kids, not all kids, and there's a lot of different sports. But I know that schools are cutting back on their physical education courses and programs, and recess is sometimes being eliminated. And, so kids are just sitting all day at school and eating whatever they're eating, and it's usually not that good for you. So, and it's usually processed food in a lot of cases. So, that in combination. But I mean, the kids play hard. I mean, and when they play, they fall, and so they are getting these minor injuries, but their body doesn't see them as minor, right? So their body is still holding on to these injuries and the emotional stuff that we all go through, because that also affects our soft tissue. And that's something that my work actually does address, is the emotional stuff that's trapped in our physical bodies. So it helps kids release that on a different level, and it helps adults release that on a different level. And it's great because kids don't actually have to be able to tell you what's going on. They'll just feel what's going on, and they'll just, their body will respond to however you're treating them. And it's very gentle work. So it's easy to do with kids, and it's easy to learn to do. And that's something else that I've been doing actually this last week, is recording another online course for parents or just anybody that wants to help their partner or their loved ones, or, their parents or their kids, just with some minor stuff, and just help their bodies feel better and relieve some pain, and and maybe calm them down a bit or help their movements a little bit better. I've created an online course where I teach just some simple techniques on how to do that and how to help people release. So, and that should be up in the next couple of weeks. That should be live online, so people can check out my online learning portal through my website for that as well, because that will quite soon.
Yes, so we've covered quite a lot, but it's all related, the emotion, trauma, actual physical injury, minor things that become major. So I think this is thoughtful work. So it's great that you're on the Thoughtful Leader podcast. People who are leading an organization, they definitely want to be aware of this work. And if they can keep their employees, if they can keep their team healthy, then everybody wins, right?
Absolutely. I mean, that is something that I feel is really necessary for people in leadership positions, is to deal with their stuff. Like, everybody's carrying around baggage, right? Emotional, whatever, some kind of trauma is being held in their body. And so they're leading often from that place of trauma. And would only be beneficial for them and the people that they're kind of leading, or, if it's a company or whatever, then it's only going to be beneficial for everybody for them to model that behavior in caring for themselves and helping themselves heal and grow. And I mean, it's a continual process, right? Like I don't believe we're ever done on this healing journey, really. And because there's always something coming up in life, right? I mean, we don't reach a point where we're just done learning or growing or whatever. So yeah. But yeah, I mean, leaders, I would love to work. I mean, I do work with leaders and I know that it is super important for people in leadership positions to deal with whatever's going on for them, because otherwise it slows you down. I mean, it makes doing whatever you do that much more difficult, right?
Right. Yep. And of course, on the Thoughtful Leader podcast, we're fond of saying that everybody is leading him or herself. Now it's time for you to be a thoughtful leader and share with people, let's just say, an area where you felt you were not heading in the right direction. Because I know you sound and look perfect and all this, but a mistake or an error of judgment that you noticed and corrected, if I can use that word.
Well, that's a tough question, because I believe that there are no mistakes, and everything that I've done has been for a reason, whether or not I knew what that reason was at the time. I think I did a bit of a course correction about 10, 12 years ago now, when I decided to go back to school for massage therapy, because I was working in corrections before this. I was a correctional officer. I was a probation officer as well. And I knew that I did not want to continue in that career, right? Like I knew that I wasn't going to retire from that. So, I mean, I took a leap and went back to school and found what I was passionate about. So, and it's interestingly enough that it comes back to healing trauma with this work, because I worked with so many traumatized people in corrections on both sides of the bars. And that's where I really got an appreciation for how much everybody needs this work and how much it can benefit everybody. And that was really kind of the driving force behind the creation of the self-care program for me, because I knew how many people actually needed it. And now my mission now is just to get it out in front of as many people as I can.
And part of that is showing up on the podcast. So thank you for that.
Yes.
Our other tricky question that we sometimes ask our guests, and you don't have to answer it, but is there a common misconception people have about you? Something that simply isn't true? And here's your chance to kind of wave your flag. And you can talk about anything you like or not. You can skip it.
No, you know what? I don't really know what people think about me that I would feel would be a misconception. I mean, I guess a lot of people think if I'm a body worker, they feel like it's massage, right? And maybe that's the biggest misconception is because most people don't know what myofascial release is when I say that. And it's just like, and so is it like massage? And I'm like, no. I mean, it's kind of, but no, it's not even anything close to being what massage is like. So I'd say that's probably the biggest misconception at this point that I'm aware of anyway.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And I love your answer, because of course we never can know how we're being perceived.
Yeah.
You get some clues, from social media, and sometimes, yes. But perhaps when you're even more of a celebrity, you'll get a lot more feedback, and unfortunately, probably more haters. But
possibly. That way I'll know I'm doing it right. Bring on the haters. Bring them on.
Don't say that.
It's for my own personal growth too, to be able to deal with that opposition, right? Because I know that people are you can only meet people where they're at, and not everybody's going to want what I do. I recognize that, and that's why I don't try and convince anybody that they need it. And I work with people that want it, and people that seek me out. So, and I don't worry about anybody else.
And that is a great attitude. So is there one last tip that you have for our listeners? Because they can find all your details in the show notes, the bio, they can look you up. I hope you do, guys, because, this would be a really great thing for you to think about that you probably weren't thinking about up until now. But is there a last tip that you have for everybody, Shane?
I would just say, just check in with your mindset. I mean, this last year has been a huge illuminator for a lot of people's mindsets. And I know a lot of people came out of it thinking 2020 was the worst year ever. For me, it was actually quite a good year, to be honest. And a lot of great things happened for me this year, despite what was going on in the world. And I chose not to focus on what was happening as much as I could. I mean, you can't obviously avoid it completely, but, I just focus on the here and now and just be more mindful with what you're doing, because even if you're not doing more self-care, then just being mindful of how you go through your day is going to make you feel differently and probably better.
I'm delighted to hear you say that. So focus on what you're doing, be mindful. I think, people know this and they forget, and we forget it and have to be reminded multiple times each day.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
This is your time, everybody. This is your reminder.
Yeah. It's a practice, right? It's just something that we need to keep doing to get good at it, like anything else. So
exactly right. Thank you so much for spending time with us today, Shane. Your work is amazing, and I hope people do seek you out. And thank you for sharing your gifts with the world.
Well, thank you for the platform and the opportunity.
Best of luck with everything. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of The Thoughtful Leader, and I hope it's inspired you to be more thoughtful as a leader in your business. Please consider subscribing and leaving a review. An important question for you. Do you want to create a culture of thought leadership in your organization? My best-selling book, The Thoughtful Leader, is available now on Amazon and many other sites in paperback, ebook, and audiobook formats. Please visit www.mindygk.com for more great content. That's www.mindygk.com. Speak to you again soon.